Is everybody having a good time right now? Today is the 26th of March, 2020. And while there are so many individuals who want to say this is quarantine, I want to explain something. I don't know how anyone believes that this is quarantine. Let me explain what quarantine is, okay? Because quarantine, in my understanding, has to do with medical watch and being in the equivalent of an ICU or a bubble like that in a hospital where doctors actually come in and nurses and stuff like that actually make sure you're medically okay. You don't go to the doctors go to you. So, we'll verify that. So, quarantine, a state, period, or place of isolation in which people or animals have arrived elsewhere or been exposed to infectious or contagious diseases are placed, or disease, depending. Verb, imposing isolation on or a person, animal, or place put in quarantine. Though, isn't it funny if you think about it? It has to do with 40 because of the QUA, and that in Latin, but here it says Italian, though Italian diverged from Latin language. For those of you who didn't take Latin, but I'm sure you can find a website that'll give you that. Like qua, Q-U-A, quattro, for, quarantine. Yes, so, and if it's not, then why would the CDC say, you know, if you feel sick? Does anybody remember the, what was it called? The Ebola outbreak? Quarantine meant those people were in a lockdown situation. However, they were observed constantly by medical professionals. And just because you have what techie devices you have in your, wherever you're living, does not mean you are being monitored in that way. So, let's go to see what the meaning of lockdown is. Lockdown is the confining of prisoners to their cells. In this case, I live in an apartment, so the people in this apartment complex locked down to their individual cells. And you got a cell phone now, don't ya? Yes, you do. I'm recording on one, obviously. Typically after an escape or attempt to regain control during a riot. Now, what was those areas that were being quarantined first? Did they have the most amount of riots recently? They did, didn't they? Yes, they did. There were a whole bunch of riots in New York City, a whole bunch of riots in California, a whole bunch of riots in Washington State, mainly Seattle, and a whole bunch of riots in Austin, Texas, right? Yes, there were. Yes, there were. So here's an example that dictionary.com gives. A state of isolation or restricted access instituted as a security measure. The university is on lockdown and nobody is able to leave. So, for example, go into Merriam-Webster. But real quick, when there have been problems at certain locations, the university was on lockdown. Yes, it was. So, at Merriam-Webster, the definition of lockdown is 1. Confinement of prisoners to their cells for all or most of the day as a temporary security measure. Do we have a curfew at this point in time? Yes, we do. In Hayes County, our curfew is 11 p.m., 2300 military time. 2. The definition of lockdown: an emergency measure or condition in which people are temporarily prevented from entering or leaving a restricted area or building, such as a school, during a threat or danger. I'm not looking at my books, I'm looking at the individuals in the apartment next to mine. So, recent examples. Oh, look, it has to do with the coronavirus and different. How many countries are on lockdown? Class, how many? Oh, okay, but they were on quarantine first, right? Right, yes, they were. They were on quarantine status. Yes, they were. So let's go to Cambridge Dictionary. Lockdown is a situation in which people are not allowed to enter or leave a building or area freely because of an emergency. The Secret Service, say hello, is imposing a virtual lockdown on the city. The school has been placed on lockdown this morning because I'm not going to read the last words of what that threat is because I know better. So, I mean, I'm dumb, but I'm not that dumb. I know not to say certain words, despite the fact that I've been told to use my words before. I had a whole bunch of college students try to tell me I need to learn my words. I bet that they didn't think to look up those meanings. So in Merriam-Webster, I'm going to go back to the word quarantine. 1, a period of 40 days. What day was the first day of quarantine? Okay. 2, a term during which a ship arriving in port and suspected of carrying contagious disease is held in isolation from the shore. What? Okay, that's going on. C, a place where a ship is detained during quarantine. Now, isn't that funny? Looking up the definition of quarantine and the word quarantine is used. 3, a restraint upon the activities or communications of a person's or the transport of the goods designed to prevent the spread of disease or pests, such as cherubim. There you go. B, a place in which those under quarantine are kept. Again, how do you use the same word? You're looking up for a dictionary definition, and there's the word. 4, a state of enforced isolation. There you go. Okay, now as a verb, to detain or exclude by a quarantine. Again, how do you use the word quarantine when you're looking up the word quarantine, huh? 2, to isolate from normal relations or communications. Gee, I mean, I've technically been in isolation since, having certain issues in the community. Not by choice on my part, though. Just saying. So isn't it ironic that the area of Texas that I had the biggest issue in is the first one in the state of Texas, meaning the city of, to be put on quarantine or lockdown. Lockdown. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Are you excited? Because, I've only been in the situation that I had been in for how many years? Okay, and let's not forget how I was raised by my egg donor mother biologically. So, if I can do it since, being born, you people can handle it for just 40 days.